have, because, even if we're hangry, right? Like, we have access to all sorts of things. We can make something at home, right? We have the resources for that. Or you can go to, like, Chick-fil-A, not today, but you can go to Chick-fil-A and all sorts of other places to eat. Like, we were able to do that. We can get in our car if you're able to drive, or be like, hey, Mom, Dad, can we go to Chick-fil-A or something like that? You can do that. Or you can be like, hey, Mom, Dad, like, can we make dinner or whatever? Like, you can do that. You have the ability to do that. But the 20.1% of people that live in that below that threshold, they can't do that. And another very scary statistic, because to me, that's scary. Like, I'm very blessed to never have to have dealt with, not knowing when we're going to eat next. But food insecurity is essentially just that, not knowing when you're going to be able to eat, right? The next time you'll be able to eat. And that went up to 15.4% of people in West Virginia, children in West Virginia that struggle with that. That's terrifying. And the thing is, I hope that sticks with you, but we've also kind of gotten to a bit of a loop, right? Because what Isaac was talking about before, where, news places really like bad news, right? That's just what sounds good. And so, bad news kind of hasn't gotten bad enough sometimes, right? Like, there's one thing that I have noticed, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but with school shootings, right? You've heard about this before. The first time I heard about that, I was like, that's terrifying. I didn't feel safe in school for weeks. But now I might hear about it, but at this point, that's not really bad enough anymore. You may hear about it if you look for it, but it definitely doesn't reach, everyone's feed or anything like that. And that's scary. We've gotten to this point to where we don't care anymore. All these horrible events going on each and every day, and we'll see it on like Twitter or something, and be like, oh no, that's sad. And just keep going, and then forget about it minutes later. We've gotten to a point to where nothing affects us anymore. We've been desensitized to it. But see, the thing is, that's not Christ-like. That's not how it should be. We should be losing sleep over statistics like this, knowing that people, live like this. And the fact that we have the ability to help, but we choose not to, right? And so today we're going to be talking about the essence of evangelism. And so we've talked about, what the gospel is, and then also how important it is to know what the gospel means to you in terms of your testimony, knowing what your testimony is, knowing how to share it. And so now we're going to be talking about the other parts of it, of essentially providing for people, and then also urgency. And so this is, quote, Isaac Edmond, and this is kind of what was the root of this series, was Jesus meets the need before he sows the seed. That's trademark for Isaac. So if you didn't like that quote, you can tell Isaac that it was not good. And if you like the quote, you can talk to me because I'm the one that said it. But so whenever you look through the Bible and the gospel, right, with Jesus, you notice that's what he does. He meets physical needs and then also spiritual ones. And so today, we're not reading the whole thing, but I'll point you to where it is. In Matthew 14, chapter 14, verses 13 through 21, is when Jesus feeds the 5,000. And so in that story, these people have been following Jesus and his disciples for days, right, at this point. Jesus has been teaching them wonderful things, but Jesus realizes, he's like, hey, humans need to eat eventually. So he's like, hey, these people need to eat. I have compassion on them. So we need to feed them. And then Peter and the disciples are like, oh, well, you can send them to the towns nearby and they can get food there. And then Jesus is like, well, we could, but a lot of them come from very far and they might faint on the way. We should provide for them here. What do we have? And they brought him 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Right? And so Jesus says grace over them and then provides for all these people. And they had leftovers, which that's crazy to me that they had leftovers after feeding 5,000 plus people, but that's a whole other discussion. But he feeds all these people. He provides for them physically so that they'll be able to receive his spiritual teachings. And see, that's the thing. If you have some sort of physical need, you're not going to be worried about spiritual stuff, spiritual needs or anything like that. You're going to be worried about what's going on right now. Like, I need to eat, or I'm not mentally stable, or I'm too emotionally tired to listen to anything right now, right? But the thing is that a lot of people live like that every day, right? 20.1% of children live like that every single day. And the thing is, we've been given, varying gifts of grace, whether, we're wealthy, or we're good at talking to people, or good at welcoming people, or good at teaching. We've been given such gifts and talents, multiple degrees. And the thing is, I'm here to tell you that these gifts that you've been given are not for you. Your gifts are meant to serve others, to help others. Because that's the thing, that's another thing that Jesus taught, was to have a servant's heart, to be others focused. Because the thing is, Jesus didn't come to be served. He didn't come here to be served. He came to serve other people. And he showed that by washing his own disciples' feet and saying, "Do as I do." And he says that the least of you will actually be the greatest, because the leader among you will be the servant. And the thing is, I really love this verse. It's in Luke 18 and 19. And essentially, it was about this ruler that pretty much like, hey, I'm without fault, followed all these commandments my whole life. Like, that's like that area where he's like, hey, I did all these things. What am I missing? And Jesus is like, oh, well, you have to give up your possessions. And the guy went away sad because he was wealthy, right? But before that, in Luke specifically, the ruler asked, good teacher, what do I lack? And then Jesus, before even answering his question, said, good teacher, no one is good except for God alone. Jesus is all God and all man, and yet he said that. He humbled himself even to that point. Obviously, he humbled himself to death on the cross. We know this. And even humbled himself in such a small little detail like that. Of being like, I am not good. God is the only one that is good. That's incredible. That's like one of my favorite things. Anyway, we need to have that sort of mentality to help other people. Because if we provide for people in a certain way, maybe that one person that Isaac has brought up to you, maybe they have a need like that. Maybe they need a friend. Maybe they need food. Maybe they just need someone to talk to, someone to listen to, anything. People have all sorts of physical needs, as I know you know that. And if you provide for them, then a couple of things will happen. One, they'll be like, why is this person helping me for no reason and for nothing in return? That's kind of weird. And you go like, well, there's this Jesus guy I know. This Jesus character. And many other things can happen from there, but you can evangelize. That's part of the essence of evangelizing, is providing for others, using your gifts for others. And so from there, we go to probably the more harder section of this particular part. And the other part of evangelism is urgency. And so I had Adam tell me the amount of students that are in this room. He said it was about 60. And we've been talking about these chairs, right? See these nice chairs over here? Nice empty chairs. And there's 60 of you, 60 students in this room. There's 150 chairs that we have. There's like 8 chairs right here. And so that's not a great ratio, right? We're not even halfway. We're 15 off from even halfway. And so 60 people, 60 students, right? Part of the essence of evangelism is urgency, as I just said. Because the thing is, we don't have as much time as we think we do. Even though I was also your age, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm immortal. Like, I don't think anything can actually hurt me, like, ever. And, which is great and all, but you're not guaranteed time. Because we've said this before, we're like, if you don't have anything to thank God for, thank Him for having you wake up today. Because that's a privilege on its own. But so, that's the problem, though, is that we think like, oh yeah, I really wanted to tell, this person about Jesus, but I'll do it next week. And then next week comes by, and you're like, I don't know, I didn't eat today. Or like, I don't know, I woke up on the left side of the bed, not the right side, so now I don't want to talk to them. So, see, that's an issue. Because we're assuming that we will have that time. And even worse, we're assuming that that person that is still lost will have that amount of time. And so you see these empty chairs, right? An empty chair is pretty useless, just kind of in the way, right? I'm sure if you look around, I can't look around because I'll be honest with you, I still can't see. But if you look around for me, then you'll notice that there's still a lot of empty room, and there's also a lot of chairs over there. And even some more chairs right here we have enough chairs to even display them. How pretty. But see, that's a problem. Because you're one person, right? That one person that Isaac just told you to pray about and ask God for if you didn't have one, right? Where are they? Do you know? Are you sure that you'll have enough time to actually tell them? Because you see, Adam kind of stole my thunder a little bit. That's okay. With choosing to not tell them about Jesus, you're almost being selfish. You've been given such a gift of, revival. You've changed as a person. I'm sure you've seen it. And at the very least, you've seen it in other people, right? And the thing is, I also want to preface this too. I struggle with this too. I'm obviously not perfect. And if you thought I was, sorry to burst your bubble. But, imagine I'm also talking to myself at this. Because I went through all of high school. I think I maybe have talked to 2 people about Jesus. 2. That is a very tragically small number. And it's not even about numbers. It's about doing it, right? It's about at the least doing it. But the thing is, I can't even remember for sure if I did, which is probably means I just did. I had all of that time and that wonderful opportunity of middle and high school to tell anybody about Jesus, and I chose not to. And see, there's 2 main things. There's a bit more that goes into it, but there's 2 main reasons on why you wouldn't want to tell someone about Jesus. One is unbelief. The second is fear. Which one is it? Are you not fully sold on this? You're not fully sold on the gospel? Do you not believe the change that you've seen? Maybe you just haven't seen enough change to be convinced. Are you afraid? I don't know what really there is to be afraid of. I might look a little weird if I talk about Jesus. I don't know. We've been given a spirit of power and love and self-control, not of fear. That's in 2 Timothy, I'm pretty sure. But we haven't been given a spirit of fear. The only thing that we should be ever fearing in our lifetime is the Lord Himself. And yet we choose to be afraid of a simple conversation with somebody. And the thing is, you don't have to make it weird. Right? What are we afraid of? The thing that you should be more afraid of is robbing people of the opportunity to hear about Jesus. Those people that you're robbing are just leaving these empty chairs. Empty, useless. That could be a soul in that chair, and it was just used for display instead. There's 60 of you in this room. We have 150 chairs in 2 weeks to fill them. And in fact, I want to see us having a chair problem.
Amen.
I want this room to be full. The Lord himself wants his room to be full. Are you willing to have that happen? Are you willing to look past your doubts and your fears to be able to do that? Or are you going to continue to rob people of the opportunity of change in your life? You've seen it. Some of you have been to snow camp. Some of you have been to summer camp. You've seen such wonderful change. You've read through the Bible. You've seen wonderful change there. You've even seen change in your own life. And yet you still choose to rob people. It doesn't make sense, does it? Where are they, church? Do you know where your friend is? Or that one person is? Are you sure they're going to make it to next week? Because you see, we're not guaranteed any time. Unless the Lord himself says so. So I want you to be thinking of these chairs. That could be people right there. There's so many hundreds of people in your schools, in your life, that are in need physically, most likely, and also spiritually. And see, Jesus, of course, knew that, and he sought people. He had compassion on them at every turn. He healed sick, provided them food, everything. And he taught them. Now I know we're not Jesus. However, we're supposed to be like him. You need to be willing to have these conversations with people. Even if it's just one. Hey man, if there's 60 people, each one of you talk to one person. Hey man, that's 120 people right there. That's pretty good. I'd be happy with that. Well, I would be okay with that. Because I know that we can do more than that. But one is a good start. And so, to kind of leave you with a bit of a sobering story of just how important it is to understand how urgent this is. This happened sophomore year of high school. So, I was in wood shop, and yes, I took wood shop. It was easy. But there's this kid in that class, and he was a little weird around the edges, but he was a good kid. You know, I knew him from high school. And so, we talked a little bit about we were like school friends. We talked to each other in school, guys, right? And so, the problem is, I wasn't taking this super seriously just yet. And so I didn't really tell him about Jesus. I didn't, just kind of chose not to. It was selfish of me, yes. And so, days are going by, of course, just getting through school, surviving. And the thing is, one thing about this guy is that he was very good with attendance. He was always there, every day. Never missed a day. So that was one thing I really admired about him. But he, one day, didn't show up to school. I was like, that's weird. Maybe he's sick or something. Things happen. And, I go up to my teacher. And, I was pretty decent friends with the teacher, so I felt comfortable asking. Maybe help them with something. And so, I was like, hey, where's that guy? Usually he's here, right? He's like, oh, well, he was killed in a hit and run yesterday. And that really shook me. Because that kid was the same age as I was. Sophomore year of high school. They found him in a ditch. I'm not sure if they ever figured out who did it, but he just didn't have that much time. Instead of telling him he was loved and he was loved by a God that created him and everything, I chose not to tell him that. I had every opportunity to. I still didn't. I pray that none of you will have to go through something like that. But I can't guarantee that, and neither can you. We are not guaranteed any time. Neither is the people that are still lost right now. Seek these people. Provide for them. Tell them about Jesus.